One of the things we have talked about is the ongoing conversation of Jinx in pro play specifically. And if you did not know or are unaware, but are curious at least, Jinx actually has been picked twice in pro play as a matter of fact. Once in Korea, and once more recently this past weekend in the LEC, or what was formerly the EU LCS if you haven't been around for the name change and the rebranding over there. And she actually has a 1-in-1% like win rate. She won the first game, lost the second game. But the reason I'm talking about this isn't like a, oh hey, we finally saw her in pro play specifically thing. It's also the why we saw her in pro play as well. Because if we look at, for example, if it'll let me click on this, let's see. No, that's not, don't click on the person. Oh no. The first game when she was picked in Korea, it wasn't necessarily because it was thought of like a great pick, a top meta pick, or even the Super Mega Death Rocket change that we thought, well, would that be like a non-factor? Would that be an issue? Would like that not matter? Would it matter? Things like that. The reason she was picked in this specific game, if it'll let me click on it and actually bring up the stats for the game itself, yes, here we go, was actually as a quote-unquote kind of like a counter pick to Caitlyn, but not a counter pick as in she's gonna smash Caitlyn, but more of a like, oh, if they pick Caitlyn and we pick Jinx, we can kind of do something with that. But as we bring this up, this is why I wanted to bring this up too. Some of the bans we see, of course, are some other meta things: Set, Bard, Olaf, Kalista, Ashe, Ezreal. There were quite a bit of AD carry bans, but not enough where you couldn't pick something maybe more meta. But they kind of felt like they wanted to pick the Jinx and play this into the Caitlyn. Which, as you can see down here, the Caitlyn did, 2-2-1. The Jinx didn't get a single kill. It was all assist and 1 death. A lot more farm, almost 30 more farm, which can be a difference, especially in pro play. But it was more of the use of why they picked Jinx. They didn't pick Jinx specifically because they were like, ah, yes, this pick is super meta. It's going to smash the Caitlyn. It's a sleeper OP that no one's looking at. And I thought it would be interesting to talk with the subreddit about moments like that, where especially as Jinx players, you're like, oh, hey, Jinx might not be like the fantastic pick here, but I do think she actually has a function in this over either the overall team comp or something like that too. We do see the Azir, and one thing I want to note about the Azir is that when we used to see Azir and Jinx back in Season 5, when they were like at their most powerful as a combo, it was tower sieging actually. So it wasn't even about like counterpicking things on the enemy team. It was just about if they could siege towers, they would knock down towers, right? Like the same way Ziggs kind of does that thing now too, now that this W was changed. But back in Season 5, Azir could self-destruct his soldiers like on the towers. You could basically use the soldiers as an extra hit on towers to help you knock down towers faster. He had attacks you with Nashers and stuff like that. The Azir looks like he popped off in this game, by the way. And so I'm looking at this comp and I'm thinking about the fact of, I think that was more of what the function of Jinx was in this composition, was they already have the hyperscaling with the Azir as well, and then we combine with the Jinx, they'll just knock down objectives even if they don't actually do well in team fights. Because this is a pretty decent team fighting comp right here. You have to deal with the Assassin with the Kali, you have some long range DPS with the Caitlyn, the Karma to keep them safe, some Sejuani even frontline and lock down, some Gangplank with some overwhelming AoE as well, things like that. Versus the other team where like Renekton, he can team fight, don't get me wrong, but there's also an option in pro play, especially because there's more coordination, to want to use the Renekton as a split pushing champion, try and win the map that way and force somebody to have to go respond to the Renekton, maybe even 2 people, and then you have an advantage with 4 people on 3 people potentially. Now, the Volibear is a little bit interesting because he can be beefy, he can be tanky. It really depends who you ask how to use Volibear right now. I feel like Volibear is in that weird position where he can kind of be like a bruiser, beefy kind of character, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wants to frontline, because he can also, fight and kind of engage and do stuff like that. But that would be my take on why Jinx was picked here, and why the casters mentioned that Jinx was picked as well. Again, it was actually to go against the Caitlyn. They wanted to kind of match the Caitlyn scaling and the range, because the range on Jinx's rocket launcher does increase over time. The other game is going to be the interesting one to talk about. I wonder if I can go back, or is it going to do the same thing? Here we go. Ready? Nope, we got to do the same thing again. Okay. Been nice and let me do this instead of having to do all this. So now I gotta fill this dead time with just my regular voice, and how you doing, dear viewer? It's nice to hear from you too, as a matter of fact. In the second game, in the I keep saying EU LCS, branding wise it's LEC now. Sorry about that. We kind of talked about this a little bit with Ziggs before. Kind of the same thing, where it's like if they win a team fight, if they win even one team fight, they probably take like 3 towers and a Baron between the Ziggs and the Jinx. Ziggs can take towers even possibly better than Jinx at this point. He's like the mid lane Jinx in terms of tower taking, with the W, with the Rift Herald from the jungler when you guys rotate around to get that as well. Now, this wasn't particularly picked, as you see, as a counterpick to Caitlyn. Caitlyn was actually just flat out banned, and by this team too. They probably weren't expecting Jinx anyways. No one was. Jinx hasn't actually been picked in Europe since the summer of 2019. seen. It's been a full year since they've seen that champion, and it's also probably going to be another year until we see Jinx again, for better or for worse, because obviously when your champion starts popping up in pro play, there's a possibility they'll get nerfed more, so it's not necessarily always a bad thing to not see Jinx in pro play, but that is a thing that can be a problem. Another problem that I feel personally, and this is just personal opinion, Senna is a bit more of a problem, actually. Another August champion, funny enough, but I've seen Senna in a couple different regions now, and they all get to build lethality, and they all just are obnoxiously bad for the enemy team, because the enemy team acts like they don't know how to deal with Senna. And I'm not saying like Senna is the easiest champion to deal with, but it's like, it feels like a team will lose 3 games out of a best of 5 in a row against Senna, and never ban Senna once. It's like, just ban the Senna then, I don't know. Jeez, this, and it's lethality too, so it's like, what? I don't know, that just seems weird to me as a spectator, but the idea of this comp was kind of the same thing. You have the Morgana to protect Jinx, you got siege potential with here, you can even get the Rift Herald and do some stuff with Lilia, I keep thinking of the song Hey There Delilah. It's not Lila, it's Lilia. Thank you. The Volibear I felt like was kind of an issue here more so than the Jinx pick. Some of the casters even touched on the analyst desk afterwards was the Volibear didn't really function as a frontline champion, didn't really function as an engage champion. He kind of just was there. Something like an Ornn could have been better. I think they wanted to go for the Scion, but as you see up here, the Scion was banned by the other team. So it's like, I think their champion pool was also pinched a little bit. But if they could have gone for the Ornn or something else instead for the top lane, maybe even gone for more of a tankier support too. I know a lot of people like to play peeling supports with Jinx and stuff like that, but I feel like if you want to go this route anyways, then maybe have the tank be here, and then you can still even not have the tank here. I'm not saying go like triple tank across the board and put all your eggs in the Ziggs Jinx basket, but maybe have one more tank somewhere else, and then that way when Volibear is a non-factor, the whole plan doesn't fall apart. Like, I felt like I kind of did watching this game go down. But anyways, Jinx in pro play for very specific reasons, and to pass off the question to you watching, A, do you think that is a function that Jinx actually has in solo queue as well? Do you find yourself picking Jinx in certain situations where you're like, hey, this is Jinx's time to shine, and what are those situations as a matter of fact? Like for me personally, I used to think if the enemy team had a lot of tanks, I would enjoy picking Jinx, because Jinx can DPS those tanks. I find myself more and more actually enjoying games where there's maybe like one tank and a lot of squishy targets, even though they might be high damage, squishy targets. If my team has like any sense of coordination and we coordinate correctly, those targets tend to melt a lot faster if I'm even a little bit fed than the tanks. The tanks, while they are tanks and I can DPS them, I can get Last Whisper and all that jazz, it does feel like they have a lot of engage, and their tankiness can overlap, and it can be actually a lot more difficult than I remember it being back in Season 5 to deal with a tank comp than it is now. But comment with your opinion in the comment section down below. By the way, we were using the site Game of Legends Esports, in case you're wondering, like, what is this site? I've never, this isn't u.gg that we always argue with every writer is the supreme stat site. No, it's not. It's Game of Legends. As a matter of fact, you just type in Game of Legends GOL.gg and you can find it basically tracks champion picks in pro play specifically, as well as some other stuff too. But if you want to ever wonder, like, oh, well, how's Vi been doing? How's Fat Hands been doing? As an example, if we go Vi the champion, we click her in there and we see that in Season 10 she's been picked 4 times. Okay, well, let's see the top regions then, you know, like the pro play scene. How many times has she been picked in pro play? Oh, look at that, 0. Like, you know, Season 5 is dead. Season 5 is long gone, I guess. Anyways, that's all for this video for me though. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.